We also have highlights rebroadcast at 2 in the afternoon and the following morning at 5 a.m. We are also now streaming live on YouTube every day, so you can watch Newsroom all around the world. Today, we look at yesterday's merger between the DA and Agang SA. Do we have a water crisis in South Africa is a question we ask Water Affairs. And later we have a very exciting young artist in our Cape Town studio who is on her way to America shortly. But first, let's take a look at the news headlines. Leaders of both the DA and Agang say they still have to consult widely with their members regarding Mampela Rampele leading the official opposition as its presidential candidate in the elections later this year. The move has been hailed by the DA as a major breakthrough and criticized by others as opportunistic. There have been more protesters killed, allegedly at the hands of police. In the latest incident, 2 protesters were shot dead at Relela village outside Sanin in Limpopo. Residents are angry at the fatal shooting of a 15-year-old boy and the murder of a 20-year-old woman attacked a satellite police station, pelting officers with stones. And much more than pride will be at stake when Nigeria and Ghana face off in the CHAN semi-final tonight. The traditional West African derby takes place at the Free State Stadium, while Zimbabwe take on Libya in the other match. Spectator numbers are expected to be high for both these matches. The wick is being turned up on South Africa's political landscape as political parties get themselves organized for the run-in to South Africa's general elections in a few months' time. The ruling party, the ANC, was set to launch its candidates list yesterday, while the official opposition, the Democratic Alliance, announced a coming together with the new party in South Africa, Agang SA, as well as putting Agang leader Mampela Rampele forward as their presidential candidate for the elections in this country. Now, joining me this morning in our studio here in Johannesburg is SABC contributing editor Vuyo Mvoko to look at the backstory of these latest developments. Good morning, Vuyo. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Evan. Good to be here.
Vuyo, I want to separate it. Let's start with the ANC candidates list first. Sort of false start. Was it smart electioneering to not be overshadowed on the day by the DA?
Well, I really don't think it was a smart move because if I was the ANC, I wouldn't have called yesterday's briefing if I wasn't going to produce the much-awaited list. And the reason for that is simple. There's no point in telling journalists who are eager to see the list that's the story. Yeah? So there's no point in telling them that this is how I've arrived at the list. These are the good things that I've done to arrive at this list. Because the best way of showing that would have been to produce the list so that these journalists can actually see that your list takes into account, the mix of youth and experience, women representativity, the issue of non-racialism and so on, the national question, and whether in fact you've put up the best, candidates, for elections and so on. And that you wouldn't have had to explain that or tell journalists what you have in the, what's behind that list. If you just show them the list, then they would have seen all the good things you are saying went into it just by going through the list. So I think it was a bad move.
Let's go back to the sort of big story of yesterday. It was quite a some say expected move in the end. The merger of Agang SA with the DA. What did you make of the timing of that move?
Well, I don't think, from where the two parties said there would have been a better move. We're going to have an election in a few months' time. Yes, the date hasn't been proclaimed as yet, but electioneering or the election period has started in earnest for all intents and purposes. So there's no point in holding back. It is, I think, this time or no time, because you need to give your constituencies time to react and adapt and adjust to the changes that you're introducing, which certainly from where the two parties are sitting is quite drastic, but of course it may not be drastic from where other people are sitting, given what they expect, these parties to poll. But that said, I mean, yes, they may pale in comparison to the big numbers that the ANC has, but the DA is the official opposition. They are the second largest party. They are the fastest and biggest growing political party in South Africa. So you had to do it.
They speak in the end to the same constituency, and it was always on the cards that they would only hurt each other going into this election. But Agang beforehand looked like they were struggling, and some analysts were talking that they would do well to win a single seat in Parliament. Would that then have made this move by Mampela Rampele a little bit desperate?
In part, yes. Because I think Dr. Rampele has received all the feedback she needed. Reactions to her forming of a political party, reactions to the founding principles or arguments of that party, how South Africans have received her so far. So she would have listened to and read what journalists have had to say, what analysts have had to say, what the few polls have said so far, and would have made up her mind that, look, I'm definitely not going to make the kind of impact that I thought I would make. So what are my options? That's one a part of I think what went to what we saw today. I think there's a second one for which little has been said, and that's money. It's going to cost a lot of money for political parties to actually make a dent. Let alone sort of overthrow. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
Absolutely.
The ANC's dominance of the political landscape. But there's a reality there that goes with that, and that is that funders, as much as they are prepared to fund an alternative to the ANC, even if it's for democracy's sake, they are sick and tired of little opposition parties, where everyone is a king in their own little crawl, but without making any real impact, in the body politic. So these two have actually been urged to actually go closer to one another, in fact, the rest of the political parties, so that they can then be a meaningful challenge to the ANC. So money, political party funding or election funding also has a lot to do with what Dr. Rampele has done. And thirdly, there's an issue of personal ambition, but also where your bread will be buttered best, given everything else you have in the space. So the fact that the DA is the fastest growing party, the biggest political party, and it is said to do, I think, no less than it has done so far, will probably grow even further than like it has done, is a good enough. So when she looked around at whatever else is available, the DA was the place to go, even if it means betraying her own principles, or at least stated principles.
I wanted to talk about the other elephant in the room that nobody's really talking about, and this is no pun. What about the likes of the Lindiwe Mazibukos and the Musi Mamanis? The ANC today said that it's clear that the DA wanted to rent another black. How is this move going to affect their futures within the DA, and is this an ominous move for them?
Look, they may sit there and sulk, given that they were the, shall we say, better blacks, so to speak. So their noses are probably going to be out of joint. But if they consider the fact that their own emergence, and that of Patricia de Lille, and a couple of other people, also put other people's noses out of joint. Where's Athol Trollip? He has disappeared into the wilderness that is the Eastern Cape, because she, she was a victim of the need to come up with a credible blackface, which in the name of Lindiwe Mazibuko, So they must expect that. And as I said in Morning Live earlier, that you've got to give credit to the DA for actually experimenting. And those experiments have actually worked for them. I mean, remember, cast your mind back to when Tony Leon was leading a very tiny, very small party, but look where it is like today.
Yeah,
and they have done wonderfully for themselves. And that doesn't mean that they are the best party to challenge the ANC. They have their flaws, and those flaws are many. They are really not as receptive to generally the black populace, but I mean, they have done something, and that something is working for them. Now, whether the majority of South Africans are embracing them or are going to kiss them or spit at them, that's something that the electorate, that's a decision the electorate would make. And that doesn't stop, of course, those who are opposed to them from actually exploiting their weaknesses in the same way that they are trying as hard as they can to actually exploit the weaknesses of the ANC.
Final question comes from our viewers via our Twitter page, and I think some of them are worried, Achang members. They're asking, what happens to the office bearers of Achang now?
Well, I mean, it's going to be bad for them. There's no doubt about that. But my argument is that they have themselves to blame. Because one, no one can tell me that the people who went to Achang went so because of the underlying principles that the party stands for. Yeah. They went there, by and large, because they warmed up or they liked Dr. Ramphele. Yeah. So now that she has changed her mind, and they never really built a strong leadership core around her, so that in the event something like what happened now happens, they can then fall back on the leaders that they have. There's nobody else. Can you think of a name right now off the top of your head? No one. So they have themselves to blame for not having put that, sort of safeguard, so to speak. Yeah. And their party is going to fall apart because it was built around this name, around this personality. So they have themselves to blame for that.
In the end, in business, in politics, it's the same principle. Always make sure you ensure the downside. Vuyo Mboko, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
That was a real insight into South Africa's political landscape and the latest changes, of course, for some Achang members in Johannesburg. Well, it's not good news. They've expressed their shock over yesterday's announcement. They say no one informed them of this momentous political shift. Some have called for Ramphele's resignation even.
Shifting political dynamics. Here is what Ramphele said last year.
I have been talking to all South Africans, including those in the DA, in COPE, in UDM, in all walks of life. The issue of joining, I think I did make it clear that I'm not a joiner.
This word ring hollow now. In her book, A Passion for Freedom, she penned misgivings about her presence in the DA. That, she said, would not change the mindset of black South Africans. Many blacks believe the DA will reinstate apartheid should it ascend to power.
We still have to sit down, analyze the whole situation, get to know the imperative aspect in terms of the announcement that has been made. And as the collective will then be able to give that position.
In one fell swoop, all the previous misgivings crumbled. Her supporters and employees stunned. The call center inundated. Back in the rural village of a birth aid cake, people expressed disappointment. Last year, she called a meeting to announce to his community her plans to form Achang. It was here at Constitutional Hill on the 18th of February 2013 when she announced that she was forming a new political party to contest 2014 elections. Now, less than a year later, the party seems to be in disarray, facing a possible closure even before the elections. Montlengani Dipoku, SABC, Johannesburg.
Of course, the ANC held back the release of its final list of candidates for Parliament and the provincial legislatures for the upcoming elections yesterday. The ruling party said the list still needed to be cleaned up.
A much anticipated media briefing with perhaps a taste of which ANC members got the nod. But the process is still undergoing scrutiny. Only ANC President Jacob Zuma and his deputy Cyril Ramaphosa are confirmed to have topped the list. And for those at odds with the law, the party will act.
The directive from the NEC that officials should engage comrades who are facing allegation of wrongdoing so that they can explain themselves to avoid prolonged processes. That is the directive of the NEC, that officials, please don't say that comrade is accused of that, there's an allegation against that one. Confront each individual and actually deal with the issues, put them to bed and move on.
The party will release the list at a later stage. It says its representatives will have to be people with a proven track record in the organization. The ruling party says its election machinery is ready to be unleashed in a bid to win the hearts and minds of South Africans. Mzwandile Mbej, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, let's take a look at what you are thinking and saying on social media. Don't forget, Newsroom is right now being streamed live on YouTube. That's as we speak, so you can watch it in the office or wherever you are on your travels around the world. Let's take a look at what you are thinking and saying on social media. Lordwick says, it's no child's play in South Africa's political landscape. We'll wait and see how this will pan out eventually. I think, Lordwick, everybody's thinking like that around the DA-Agang merger. Good sort lady said, I think it's a great decision to merge because before I was undecided as to who to vote for because I believed in both leaders. Joss Speak Africa says, big fish always swallows small fishes. DA-Agang. Clinton says, Tweeps, it's not Agang DA, it's Dagang, pronounced the gang. Yeah, everyone's a comedian these days. Hetty says, in South Africa, we vote for political parties, not individuals. This is not America. Switch off the TV, wake up and smell the rooibos. Agang DA, DA, a gang. Well, that is where you are. Don't forget, at SABC Newsroom is where we live on Twitter or sabc.co.za/news. That's where you get all the latest updates from all around the world. After a short break, protests over water have flared up several times recently. We ask the officials if South Africa is suffering a water crisis or not, as they say. Details after a short break. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
I vote because I still believe.
I'm gonna vote because there's so much beauty in this place. We need to protect it.
Because together we can achieve great things.
I'm voting for the future of my kids.
And for my grandchildren.
I'm voting because I want to show the world how awesome we are.
We've got a beautiful democracy and I'm gonna support it.
Ek stem want ek is lief vir die land. My land.
IEC. I vote South Africa.
Sometimes a lot of people, in fact, do not have access firstly to palliative care. Secondly, even if they do,
So what? Do we just kill them if they don't have access to palliative care?
I think she's actually crucifying my question, with all due respect.
If you actually actively assist somebody to die, then you are convicted of murder.
Who should take the burden of terminating a life?
It's very problematic for doctors to play God.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Water is life. 70% of the earth is water, but less than 1% is drinkable. Globally, 9 million people will die this year alone from a lack of access to clean water. Many areas in South Africa are in the grip of severe water shortages. Parts of Grahamstown in the Eastern Cape were without running water for 11 days recently in the third protracted breakdown in water supply. Kimberley in the Northern Cape recently had an interruption, so did Krugersdorp in Gauteng, Rustenburg and Potchefstroom in the northwest, and Bloemfontein in the Free State. There are persistent shortages in other parts of the northwest and in Mpumalanga. The list, they say, goes on and on. Now, in Pretoria, we are joined by the Chief Director of Communications of the Department of Water Affairs, Mr. Marva Scott. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir, to you, and good morning to your viewers.
Mr. Scott, there's a bit of conjecture around whether we have a water crisis or not. The department says no, we don't have a water crisis in South Africa. In the newspapers, it's stated that there's definitely a water crisis. What is the official position? Are we suffering a water crisis in South Africa?
Sir, the South African government is concerned indeed about the water shortages that we have seen around the country in various parts of our municipalities. Of course, we are also concerned about the rural areas that are still not part of the grid in terms of our water services infrastructure, to an extent that they do not have a consistent supply. We have also noticed that there are reports that certain areas experience these shortages over certain periods of time. There are varying reports about periods of time. You are mentioning 11 days. Someone else says two months. Others will say 4 months, and so on and so on. The South African government is concerned about that, and we have put in programs to ensure that we intervene decisively to address this crisis, if you want to call it that. But we have made a lot of progress, as we have said, because if you recall, you will agree with me that 20 years ago, South Africa had only a coverage of about 54% of people with access to water, which was about 18 million people with access to water. Today, you have over 95% of people having access to clean drinking water. This is not to deny that just over 3 million still need to be served in South Africa. And this is the reason why the South African government has now put all its effort to focusing in these areas that do not have water.
It's clear that there have been great successes the last 20 years, but it seems that in these areas where the problems are now, infrastructure is failing because it's old and so forth. Just tell us more about the plans that you're putting in place to deal with these old infrastructure.
Yes, let me start with that infrastructure problem. Because it is actually the biggest concern for us. You have already said that we are experiencing, these problems because of this aging infrastructure. Some of it has reached its design capacity. You will find that in a particular area, it was meant to serve about 100,000 people in a community. And if you go back today, you will realize that the number of people has almost doubled, which puts a strain on the capacity of that infrastructure to provide this water. There are also issues around operation and maintenance of this infrastructure, which are not at the level at which they are supposed to be in terms of efficiency. So our plans to refurbish infrastructure, to invest in new infrastructure, but also to build capacity in skills of operation and maintenance of this infrastructure have been, elucidated in a report arising from a study that we conducted about 2 years ago. So we have identified the problems around the country with respect to infrastructure, and we know exactly what needs to be done. But we want to appeal also to the private sector to come to the party in terms of funding, because we can only, as the South African government, afford so much in terms of what is needed. This is why we are appealing for partnerships to ensure that we solve this problem once and for all.
The people, Mr. Scott, unfortunately on the ground are quite impatient about what they want and what their needs are. What do you make of all the service delivery protests around water and all the violence that we've seen over the last couple of months? What is your official position on that?
There's a combination of factors that lead to disgruntlement and ultimately protests. Chief among those is the issue of communication. We need to talk to our communities. If a municipality or a village somewhere in the country is about to experience a problem of water cuts or whatever shortage in that respect, it is imperative that we have to inform the community of the problem that we are facing, what we are doing about that problem, how much time it's going to take and what alternative measures are there that we are putting in place. Consistent communication. Often people get frustrated when they ask questions and they don't get answers and they end up in the street. So we have impressed it upon our colleagues at local level to ensure that we step up this communication because it is quite critical. The problems that we experience in these areas are quite varied. You may find that sometimes it's just a broken pipe that needs to be fixed in a day. But because there is a level of laxity that happens sometimes, especially in the small and far-flung municipalities, which really do not have the capacity to fix these things timeously. So it's important to feed back to the community and to be in constant touch with them so that we attend to problems timeously and with the speed that these deserve.
Finally, Mr. Scott, you've got 45 seconds only to tell us about the Public Protector's nationwide audit, whether it's necessary to have such an audit now.
Well, we cannot make that call. I mean, if the Public Protector wants to engage in that, they are certainly within their constitutional right to do it. But we have produced a number of reports as the South African government. The Human Rights Commission has got its own reports about the state of water in South Africa. So there's abundance of information about the water situation in South Africa, and that information is accessible readily. But as to the Public Protector, it is the call of her office to do that.
Thank you very much for joining us today. That's the Chief Director for Communications at the Department of Water Affairs in South Africa, Mr. Marva Scott. Thank you once again. We move on. The International Palliative Care Network for Children, or IPCNC, started as a single woman's dream 16 years ago in Bloemfontein. It now has over 100 member countries and will hold its first ever global conference in India next month. The global organization has just made a massive step forward by getting the endorsement of the World Health Organization. The Bloemfontein-based executive director of the IPCNC, Joan Marsden, says the global battle to help children with life-limiting illnesses has only just begun. She now joins us in our studio in the City of Roses. Good morning, Joan, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. It's really good to be here with you. Thank you.
Joan, for those viewers that are not sure what palliative care is, can you just give us an idea what it entails?
Yes, palliative care for children is the care of the body, mind and spirit of the child facing a life-limiting illness or a life-threatening condition. And it involves support to the family into the bereavement period. So it's really looking at the child as a child and dealing with their physical, their emotional and their spiritual problems.
Now, the automatic assumption normally is that children who need this type of care and are not getting it is sort of a developing world problem. Is this the case?
No, not at all. These children can be found in every country in the world. The only difference is in the developing world, in the poorer countries, we find that there's a higher number of children requiring palliative care. And that's because we're facing conditions like tuberculosis, HIV, severe malnutrition, and a lot of cerebral palsy from children who are damaged at birth.
Joan,
If we look at, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Joan. I wanted to just.
Look at the,
Sorry about this. I just wanted to move on. You know, I think an exciting development for you guys is the first ever conference that will be taking place in India, in Mumbai, I think, in 10 days from now. Just tell us. Yes. Yeah, just tell us about the conference and then what your expectation is of the achievements of this conference.
Well, we're holding it in Mumbai because India has 440 million children. So we know there are a lot of children there who need palliative care. The purpose is really to raise the profile of children's palliative care, especially in the Asia-Pacific region. And we're bringing together some of the world leaders in the field to share their knowledge and experience. And what we want to get out of this conference is not just a lot of talk and a lot of knowledge. We want to develop champions who'll go back to their own countries, to their own cities, and say these children are really important and we have to do something for them.
People don't like to think about children and babies dying, Joan. Does that make it quite difficult to get greater public involvement in this cause?
Yes, that definitely is one of the biggest challenges that we have. It seems to go against all the laws of nature for people to think about children dying, but the reality is they do, and they do get these conditions. And in South Africa, we have almost 1 million children that we've identified who will need palliative care, and less than 5% of them are actually getting it.
Now, John, I want you to just take us back to the start of this program, Sunflower House, 16 years ago in Bloemfontein. Just tell us how things have developed from there to where you are today.
Well, we really started out as a response to the HIV and AIDS epidemic, although we were looking after children with all kinds of life-limiting and life-threatening conditions from them. And it's been a long uphill struggle. It still is a struggle to provide this care. And while I'm not that actively involved there anymore, I still volunteer. And, you know, just seeing how these children are cared for, how they're happy in their last days, how they achieve a peaceful death, and their families are supportive. I think that every step of the way, every bit of struggle that there has been to keep the house going has been important. I was there yesterday and holding a little baby dying of liver failure. And what really struck me was how peaceful she was. And I think if we can achieve that for every child who's facing a life-threatening condition, then it shows that we are people who care about children, and it touches our humanity.
Absolutely. That's the words of Nelson Mandela. Thank you very much, Joan. You do fantastic work, and you've set in motion a wonderful Pay It Forward campaign that's running around the world and really doing wonders for children who are suffering from life-threatening illnesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eben, for the opportunity.
Brilliant. What a courageous woman. That's Joan Marsden from the International Palliative Care Network for Children. She started that organization 16 years ago at a place called Sunflower House in Bloemfontein. At the moment, it's now gone all around the world to more than 100 countries. Isn't that just fantastic? Well, let's take a quick look at what you are saying on social media. Don't forget, Newsroom is being streamed right now live on YouTube as we speak. You can watch it in the office or watch it on your travels, on your iPad, laptop, whatever. You can watch me live there. Kujo Amankwa, the famous sports journalist. Ghana versus Nigeria in a CHAN semi-final will be tough and competitive clash. May the best team win, he says. Well, that's rather obvious, Kujo. Tell us something we don't know next time. Elijah Daniel, looking forward to CHAN semi-final match. Can't wait to see Nigeria thrash Ghana. I don't think it'll be as easy as that, Elijah, but we wish you well tonight. Agunbiade Rilivan says, Nigeria versus Ghana, our boys need to utilize their chances. I think he is a Nigerian supporter, obviously. CHAN Team Nigeria, yes. Leanne Manis, our very own legendary anchor on the Morning Live. So it's a month since Michael Schumacher hit his head on a rock while skiing. Doctors say he's still in a medically induced coma, but is in a stable condition. Thank you for that public service announcement, Leanne. And Justin says, kids idolize superheroes like Superman, Batman. Michael Schumacher was a Superman to me. Wish to see you walking in the F1 paddock soon. Justin, that is something that we all wish for the great man. What a fantastic racer he was. Probably the greatest of all time, although there's another young German who's hot on his heels as we speak. Don't forget to send your views to @SABC Newsroom. That's where you can send us all these tweets. We'll put them up. Send us pictures. Send us breaking news stories even. We'll put them up. We'll break it right here. Fantastic. sabc.co.za/news. Of course, that's where you're going to read up on all the issues that affect not just our world, but the greater world.
How do you think he actually works?
Get fully installed fixed-line broadband with modem and turn your home into a Wi-Fi hotspot. That's 5 gigs data plus 5 gigs promo data for just $3.99, including ADSL and line rental. Plus, you'll also get a free 3G dongle with 200 megabytes mobile data a month and loads more benefits for your new connected home. Rethink fixed broadband. Call, click, go to a Telkom store.
Sometimes a lot of people, in fact, do not have access firstly to palliative care. Secondly, even if they do,
So what? Do we just kill them if they don't have access to palliative care?
I think she's actually crucifying my question, with all due respect.
If you actually actively assist somebody to die, then you are convicted of murder.
Who should take the burden of terminating a life?
It's very problematic for doctors to play God.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Leaders of both the Democratic Alliance and Agang say they still have to consult widely with their members regarding Mampela Rampela leading the official opposition as its presidential candidate in the elections later this year. The move has been hailed by the DA as a major breakthrough and criticized by others as opportunistic. There have been more protesters killed allegedly at the hands of police. In the latest incident, 2 protesters were shot dead at Relela village outside Sanin in Limpopo. Residents angry at the fatal shooting of a 15-year-old boy and the murder of a 20-year-old woman attacked a satellite police station, pelting officers with stones. And in football, more than pride will be at stake when Nigeria and Ghana face off in the CHAN semi-finals tonight. The traditional West African derby takes place at the Free State Stadium, while Zimbabwe take on Libya in the other match. Spectator numbers are expected to be high for both matches. Up-and-coming South African female singer Philippa's rendition of One Direction's smash hit Story of My Life has been selected to partake in Hollywood radio and television personality Ryan Seacrest's search for the best YouTube cover song. The competition is being run on Seacrest's website, ryanseacrest.com, where 2 weeks ago 26 versions of the single were put out for public vote. Philippa has topped the leaderboard for 2 consecutive rounds and made it to round 3 and is in the top 15 now. In our Cape Town studio, we speak to Philippa this morning. Good morning, Philippa, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
What an exciting development and what an exciting life you live, my dear. Tell us about tell us about this and tell us about your background a little bit. Where you born and raised, and when did you find out this talent for music that you had?
Well, I was born and raised in Pretoria, and ever since I was a little girl, I've loved music and I've loved performing. And when I was 9 years old, I performed for the first time live, for the first time on stage. And ever since then, I realized it's really what I wanted to do. So I had some vocal training, and yeah, ever since then, I've just been performing and singing.
And in South Africa, do you perform locally? Or do you do sort of covers in and around the country, or not really?
No, not really. I've performed at a few community events, but nothing much.
Tell us about the competition. I mean, Ryan Seacrest, there's no bigger name in the world, really, is there? Could you tell us about the specifics, the sort of process you went through?
Well, I put the cover up on YouTube in about December. And in early January, the ryanseacrest.com team contacted me and they asked if I'd like to participate in the competition, which was amazing. So, of course, I said yes, and then I was put into the first round. So every week has been moving on to a next round. So that's basically where I am now, round 3, and just waiting to see what happens next. There isn't much detail, but we just have to wait and see what happens.
Tell us about where people can go to vote, because we're going to put it up on our Twitter page and all around. But where can people go if they want to vote for you and if they want to support you?
Right, you can go onto ryanseacrest.com and you can click on the contests link. And under there you'll find the Story of My Life, One Direction, Round 3 cover contest. And you'll click on that. And under there you'll have a list of names and you'll just find my name, Philippa, and click on that. And then you can click vote.
I understand you recently started university, Philippa. That must be a big step in your life.
Yes.
Tell us about that. And then how hectic is it dealing with studies and a career in music?
Well, I started on Monday at CAPA, the Cape Academy of Performing Arts, and I'm studying theatre and related studies there. So it's been hectic. There's been a lot happening for the past 2 weeks, but I think I'm confident that I'll be able to balance everything, balance both my career and studying. So, yeah, I think I'll be fine with that.
And what are your friends saying? I'm sure that your friends must be all over you all the time now. What are your friends saying and family saying?
They're just being so supportive. I have amazing friends and family that's just supporting me. So they're just, they're voting for me. They're being really supportive, very understanding, and just giving me so much love. So it's great.
Just tell me about the video itself. Who helped you with the production? Where was it produced? Locally?
Yes. Well, I did it with Kyle White. He's based in Johannesburg. So we did it at an air-based museum there in Pretoria. And it was about 1 day to film. And he works so quickly. He's a great guy. He works so quickly. And it was put up on YouTube almost, less than a week. So it was really quick.
Well, Philippa, we wish you all the best. Fantastic work. We're going to play out with your video a little bit later when we close in about 5, 6, 7 minutes' time. We're going to play that video off YouTube to show the country what fantastic work you've done. Thanks for joining us, and we wish you all the best going forward in the competition.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course, that's South African female singer Philippa, whose rendition of One Direction smash hit Story of My Life, well, is causing a big splash on Ryan Seacrest's search for the best YouTube cover song. That's it. We're going to look at, going to go to Port Elizabeth, where crucial by-elections will take place in the Mbashe municipality in Dichwa in the Eastern Cape. A total of 12 wards will be contested. The by-elections were necessitated by the expulsion of mainly ANC councillors for siding with COPE to remove an ANC mayor last year. ANC President Jacob Zuma visited the area over the weekend to campaign for his party. From Ducha, we are joined by Unati Binkosi. Good morning, Unati. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Eben, and very good morning to you and your viewers.
Just tell us what's the latest and how is the electoral process going forward there?
Well, they seem to be up and running already. We understand that by 6 o'clock, electoral officers were at the voting stations already and checking that everything is in order. The ballot papers are in place, their ink is working, and everything is in order. And by 7 o'clock, the voting stations started opening and voting started straight away. And I can tell you now, people continue trickling inside here to make their vote and ensure that their favorite political parties do take control of this particular municipality.
Now, tell us why these by-elections are so important in that area, and also tell us about the President's visit over the weekend.
Well, I'm afraid I can't hear you now. You seem to be breaking. However, what I can tell you is that these are very, very crucial elections. These are very, very crucial by-elections. They are also about the control of this, the Mbashe Municipal Council. I mean, we're talking about a council here that has 61 seats. Out of those, 20 are in the opposition's hands. And there are these 12 that are up for grabs right now. And every political party seems to be gunning to get them because that will give them power over this municipality. But particularly the opposition parties, you remember that the 12 wards that are up for grabs now were in the hands of the ruling party, the ANC, before, and we're told that they became vacant after the membership of the sitting councillors was terminated. So this is a chance for the opposition party to seize this municipality and take charge of it and ensure that they are in control of it. Because the ANC councillors that were suspended, in fact, that had their membership terminated, was because they were siding with the opposition parties. So the ANC decided to suspend them. And we saw over the past week a lot of political parties, a lot of leaders visiting this area to campaign. On Sunday, President Zuma was here as well to ensure that the ANC gets the message that they need to win these elections, because there's a risk that if they do not get a 50+ percentage in terms of the vote, there could be a coalition between the opposition parties to try and unseat the ruling party in the council. So it's a bit of a tricky situation for the ANC. Not only do they need to win, but they have to ensure that they win by a 50+ in order to ensure that they are still in control of this municipality. Because if they fail to do that, we'll certainly see opposition parties taking charge, taking that opportunity to seize the control of this municipality.
Thank you, Unati. That's reporter Unati Bingosi down in the Eastern Cape, where the Mbashi municipality will see crucial by-elections. Let's take a final look at what you're saying on social media. Don't forget, we are being streamed live on YouTube every day, so you can watch us all around the world. SABC Newsroom looks like the DA utilized the January transfer window effectively. That is a very smart one. Zotani, I like that. The January transfer window. Of course, Mampela Rampela joined the DA. I can see the ANC walking away with the elections again in the midst of all the chaos. They seem more organized. Platinum opinion, that is. CR7 says people tend to forget that the ANC merged with the NNP not so long ago. Basic Income Grant says DA ANCF, true economic empowerment lies in education skills, freehold title to land for all, and a universal basic income grant. 2014, Vote ANC says, so some Achang members refuse to join the good doctor to the DA. Oh. Well, we're going to close the show today with Philippa and this fantastic music video that has sent her to all the to this fantastic competition of Ryan Seacrest in the US of A. She is one of the 3 finalists. This is the cover version of One Direction's Story of My Life. Philippa. Goodbye, my dear.
Written in these walls are the stories that I can't explain. I leave my heart open, but it stays right here empty for days. You told me in the morning you don't feel the same about us in his bones. Seems to me that when I die, these words will be written on my stone. And I'll be gone, gone tonight. The ground beneath my feet is open wide. The way that I've been holding on too tight, with nothing in between. The story of my life, I take him home. I drive all night to keep him warm in time. It's frozen. Story of my life, I gave him hope. I spent his love until he's broke inside. Story of my life. And on these walls are the colors that I can't change. I leave my heart open, but it stays right here in its cage. I know that in the morning now I see us in the light upon a hill. Although I am broken, my heart is untamed still. And I'll be gone, gone tonight. The gra-
Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi.
Currently, we've got 3 apps that we've developed. The
app, a commuter app, and a taxi association app.
The Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba New York. Safaricom wants to introduce M-Pesa to Kenya's popular matatu industry. This will enable commuters to pay taxi fares using mobile money.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News